Welcome back to Watch the Booker Man and to episode number 12 of Paul Heyman's TNA 2010, and this episode is the go home show to Destination X 2010. Samoa Joe will face AJ Styles with the TNA World Heavyweight Championship on the line at that pay-per-view, but now we've got to do all the final build before that show. Of course, last week Desmond Wolfe defeated Mick Foley by stoppage before Jeff Hardy returned after the bell, his first appearance in about a month and a half, so a big return for him, and hopefully we can follow up that and keep the momentum going into this pay-per-view. As I said, we also have tonight Desmond Wolfe versus Samoa Joe in the main event. 3 nights before, they're both in 2 of the marquee matches on that pay-per-view card, as well as the debut of Okada. Perhaps not the biggest deal given the time frame, but knowing what he went on to become, it'll be interesting to follow his career in TNA. We are, of course, back in the Impact Zone, so let's get into the 10th episode of Impact that I've booked and the 12th episode of this series overall. And the show begins with a video package looking back at the ending of last week's show, where Desmond Wolfe defeated Mick Foley, as I'd already said, in a brutal contest. I think I sort of underplayed it a little bit. I've watched a Mick Foley match, well, his match with Ric Flair, since recording the last episode, and even considering my perception of Mick Foley in TNA, some of the stuff they did in that match, he got thrown off the stage, all sorts of brutal spots in that match, so perhaps that I can understand why that got such a good rating in retrospect. Following the match, Wolfe appeared to be far from done with Mick Foley when Jeff Hardy made his TNA return. Jeff hadn't been seen since Genesis, where he was pushed off a ladder by Desmond Wolfe's valet Brittany, but he appeared to have recovered from those injuries that had kept him out of action for all that time. Mauro and Taz then welcome viewers to the show, putting over the return of Jeff Hardy, who will speak to open this episode of Impact. Later tonight, Desmond Wolfe will face Samoa Joe in the main event, both of them in action at Destination X. But as I said, before that, Jeff Hardy comes down to the ring and cuts his return promo, playing to the crowd, of course, and saying how great it is to be back in the Impact Zone, how great it is to be back in front of the creatures of the night. Not sure if he used that phrase at this time, but playing to the crowd as much as he can before talking about the false start to his TNA run thanks to Desmond Wolfe, but nothing is going to stop him now that he's back, and he will return to the ring at Destination X against Desmond Wolfe, so officially confirming that match. He then begins to speak more about Desmond Wolfe, but is confronted by the man himself, who is not happy about what happened last week. Desmond Wolfe doesn't want to talk, he just swings a fist at Jeff Hardy, who ducks and hits him with a second twist of fate in as many weeks. His opponent for Destination X down in the ring, Jeff Hardy climbs to the top rope, but Wolfe manages to roll out before Jeff can hit the Swanton Bomb. Desmond Wolfe then heads up the ramp as the commentators put over that these two will face off at Destination X in 3 days' time. Jeff Hardy once again getting the better of Desmond Wolfe, but Wolfe escaping his actual proper punishment. That's going to come at the pay-per-view, of course, so we're giving just enough that Jeff Hardy's getting a pop, and he is getting the better of Desmond Wolfe in these exchanges, but you are going to have to buy that pay-per-view to see the final showdown. A 71 rated segment is a really good way to start the show, getting the crowd hotter and Jeff Hardy doing really well. The storyline, I forgot to change the name, so it's a bit strange it being called Foley's Future, but this is now the storyline, has evolved into being Jeff Hardy versus Desmond Wolfe, which we will see at the pay-per-view, as I said. We then open with that match we promoted last week, Amazing Red and Lethal Consequences versus Bad Influence, and of course Tomko has been a little bit useless as the heavy of Daniels and Kazarian in a way, but it actually gets a little bit worse tonight because Amazing Red pins Kazarian thanks to Tomko trying to get involved but hitting a big boot to Kazarian. So now not only is he being a terrible aid to Kazarian and Daniels, he's actually now actively costing them matches, so that takes it to another level and we can see where that's going. It is actually Austin Creed who's the worst performer in the match. The fact that he's worse than Tomko surprises me a little bit, but it is a good win for Amazing Red and Lethal Consequences, and 3 nights before the rematch for the X Division Championship, Amazing Red does pin the man who beat him for the title, Kazarian. I'm not a big fan of having the champion pinned by the challenger. I don't think it's the best way to build up matches, but I've done it in this because it furthers a storyline after the match, which is Kazarian, Daniels and Tomko left in the ring as Lethal, Creed and Amazing Red celebrate up the ramp. Daniels is holding court. He's clearly upset and at the end of his tether with Tomko, and he grabs a microphone from ringside. He's been holding this in, but he asks Tomko what his value is to this team. Daniels brought Tomko back to take out AJ Styles, and he didn't do that. Then he was supposed to help him beat Samoa Joe in their long-term rivalry, and he didn't do that. Now, AJ Styles and Samoa Joe are in the main event of Destination X, and he stood here watching Tomko kick his own partner in the face. Daniels has dropped down the card significantly since he got Tomko involved, and he wants to know why he should keep Tomko around. Tomko steps to Daniels, he has that temper, he's not going to be spoken to like that, but Kazarian does come between them and tries to calm the big man down. Daniels just shakes his head at Tomko, leaves to the ring, the X Division champion following not far behind. Daniels struggling when going off script, unfortunately, but we're beginning to sow the seeds for Tomko's departure. We've got only a couple of weeks left on his contract, so unless something changes, we're going to have to find a way to write him out, and the wheels are now in motion for that. And we then go to the backstage area, another group that have been not really having a great time of it recently. Eric Young is holding a meeting with the members of the World Elite. Eric Young says that Rob Terry will be joining Sheikh Abdul-Bashir at ringside for tonight's match with Okada, but they all need to be on high alert. He talks about the reputation that Okada brings with him to TNA and says that tonight they will learn if that guy has an elite level mentality. As EY looks to delve further into his game plan, he is approached by Mr. Anderson. Anderson tells EY that he needs a partner for tonight, and that match is in about half an hour. He asks Eric Young if he can borrow Rob Terry for the night. EY says that he doesn't have time for this, they're busy, especially not dealing with an American like Mr. Anderson. Anderson says that he gets it, but palms some notes into the hand of Eric Young. He's trying to bribe him into giving him a partner or being his partner. He adds that he can get them changed into Canadian if EY would prefer that. EY doesn't reply, and Anderson gets the message. He then heads off, perhaps in search of an alternative option. Eric Young and Mr. Anderson both improvising well, two entertaining guys. Little interaction between them, setting up the fact that Mr. Anderson is struggling to find himself a partner. He will face Roderick Strong and Kurt Angle later tonight, but as of yet, he does not have a tag team partner, which is pretty much what Kurt implied last week. D'Angelo Dinero then cuts a response promo to Homicide, where he calls out the former X Division champion for spreading lies about the Pope. Dinero doesn't really go into the specifics, but he is denying everything that Homicide said, so it's a little bit wish-washy. He doesn't say, I wasn't this, I didn't do this, this isn't the case, but he's saying that Homicide is spreading lies. Pope says that he doesn't have to justify and explain his life to anybody. All Homicide needs to know that he is here in TNA right now, and he is ready to fight. The Pope says that Homicide wants to take this to the streets, and that is perfectly fine by him. But he says that if Homicide no-shows like he did at Against All Odds, the Pope will come and find him, and they can fight through the streets of Brooklyn. So D'Angelo Dinero struggling when going off script, but it's still a decent promo, and setting up the fact that that match will take place at Destination X. I've actually looked at the card we've got together for that pay-per-view. I think it's a really strong card, and we've almost got too many good matches where you'd like to have the peaks and the troughs. It's just big match after big match, so it is going to be difficult to arrange that card, but I suppose it's a good problem to have when you've got 9 very, very strong matches on a pay-per-view. As EY had previously said, we then get Okada makes his entrance, and then Rob Terry and Eric Young join Sheikh Abdul-Bashir when he makes his way to the ring. The commentators put over that Okada is on his excursion from New Japan Pro Wrestling. He's made his entrance and Eric Young takes a microphone. EY says that he's heard many great things about Okada and questioned if he was up to the required level of the World Elite. EY then extends his hand. He says that this match doesn't have to happen. They don't have to entertain all these stupid American people because he has the chance to join the World Elite. But Okada shakes his head. He wants to fight. He wants to make his TNA debut tonight. Eric Young isn't happy with this and turns to Sheikh Abdul-Bashir. He then nods at Rob Terry. The two men leave the ring. Bashir now knows that it's his job to introduce Okada to TNA and, more importantly, to the World Elite. So the first time we're seeing Okada on screen here, I'm not... because I had to set him in the pre-game editor to be on excursion, this isn't technically his debut because the game doesn't recognise whether somebody's debuted or not when you're adding their contract in the database before you start. So I'm not sure even what his gimmick is, probably should have checked, but it's a good way to introduce him on screen, a very good segment to start his TNA career, and the match isn't so good. Unsurprisingly, Okada with a 35, he's not got any overness in the US, I don't think, so as we build him up, he will get better, and this is a great example of building him up. Okada defeats Sheikh Abdul Bashir in 6 minutes and 3 seconds. It's not completely one-sided. Bashir is getting some offense in, but eventually Okada overpowers him and defeats him by pinfall. I've not even thought of what his finisher will be. I don't think he did the Rainmaker at this time. I might even show what his finisher is on screen after the video, because I can't think at the moment, but I'm sure something will come to me for Okada's finisher. If not, it's just the Rainmaker. And after the match, Okada stands tall following his debut victory. Rob Terry and Eric Young return to the ring, looking to intimidate Okada, with EY telling him that it is his last chance to join the World Elite and accept the offer. He's impressed with what he's seen, but Okada, who doesn't speak English, sort of just shakes his head. He's not engaging, and this annoys Eric Young, who can't understand why Okada won't speak back to him. Young just being a bit of an idiot, really. But before things can take a physical turn, Mr. Anderson comes down to the ring. He's by no means trying to help out Okada, but he tells Eric Young that his match is next, and he still hasn't found a partner. He can improve his offer to get Rob Terry to team with him tonight. Whatever it takes, he will give Eric Young the money that he needs to get Rob Terry on his team. Mr. Anderson pulls out his wallet, but EY doesn't want to hear it. He's sort of going to walk off. Rob Terry, however, puts his arm across the chest of the World Elite leader, stopping him from leaving, and steps forward. Rob Terry takes the wallet from Anderson, has a look through it, takes all the notes out of it, and he nods his head. He doesn't care what Eric Young thinks. He's taking the money, and he is teaming with Mr. Anderson in the upcoming match. So we're straight into the third match there, and it is Kurt Angle and Roderick Strong versus Mr. Anderson and Rob Terry, and actually Strong pins Terry with a roll-up. The idea being that Anderson is setting Rob Terry really to punish Kurt Angle. It's not so much about winning the match, more about Rob Terry using his power to try and hurt Kurt Angle. They're facing off at Destination X, so he wants him to be in as bad a condition as possible. Rob Terry does some kind of move to send Kurt Angle to the outside, but in that distraction, Roderick Strong, the legal man, is able to roll up Rob Terry and pick up a surprise victory, his first win in TNA. Kurt Angle head and shoulders above the rest, as he always is. He's head and shoulders above anybody in TNA. It doesn't matter who you put him in the ring with. Anderson and Strong doing just about as you'd expect. Rob Terry's not great in the ring, but that's not really what he's there for. He's there to be the presence and to be a big man. He's a bodyguard who hopefully I can position and push in a better way than I have done Tomko. He's certainly a lot younger, definitely some potential with Rob Terry that we don't want to completely throw away. Angle and Strong then celebrate in the ring. This Sunday, as I said, Kurt Angle will face Mr. Anderson at Destination X in a rematch from Against All Odds, where Kurt Angle made Mr. Anderson tap out. The second hour of Impact begins with Mauro and Taz sending over to the back. JB is stood beside Abyss. The global champion has been attacked and he is out on the floor. Moments before he was scheduled to come out and compete tonight, there is a pool of blood beside Abyss, so it's clearly a brutal attack. We haven't seen who's done it. He won't be able to compete, but Jeremy Borash confirms that there are no witnesses to the attack currently, and for now, we have no idea who took the monster out. Jeremy Borash improvising well as we go into a reshuffled match. It is now Tara v Alyssa Flash, and the Knockouts champion picks up a victory over Flash, but we are putting over that it is a very good performance from Alyssa Flash, and I think actually losing this match will do her better than winning those matches where we were getting the note about two unimportant people. Tara is somebody who has a good perception with the crowd, and this is a very good match, 59 rating. Daphne doing good work at ringside, and Flash putting in a solid performance. If we can get her overness up, as I keep saying whenever she's on screen, she can be one of the key players in this Knockouts division. Tara with a good performance, as she always puts in, and as the champion has her arm raised, having had a hard fought match against Alyssa Flash, Mauro and Taz definitely trying to put Flash over as a serious competitor. ODB appears on the screen and says that she listened to Tara say her piece last week, so now it's Tara's turn to listen to her. ODB says that Tara got one thing right last week: they don't like each other. The rest of it was the usual fluff from Tara, trying to appeal to the fans, trying to get people on side, but ODB wants to get down to the simple facts. She was here long before Tara, and she's sure she'll be here long after Tara is gone. At Destination X, there is only one knockout with the fight, the guts and the toughness to be the last knockout standing, and according to ODB, that is her. She didn't do well without a script to follow, advancing the storyline, so more or less keeping it where it is and continuing the heel turn hints for ODB, which in a way you cod say she spoke about the fans, she's running down Tara, but again, not enough that we could say she is definitively a heel. We then get a backstage segment before the Knockouts tag team match next. Madison Rayne and Velvet Sky are able to get some alone time because they're going out for their match, and they discuss the behaviour and attitude of Angelina Love since she returned to TNA. Both agree that Angelina is kind of overstepping her mark as the self-appointed leader of the beautiful people, and Madison says they have to say something, they can't keep letting this go on. Velvet convinces her that making Angelina mad will only make things worse for all of the beautiful people, and they just have to hope things work out, everything works itself out at Destination X, and they can carry on being the most important part of the Knockouts division, etc, etc. Madison Rayne works the crowd well, and we're continuing to sow the dissension within the beautiful people. This Sunday, Angelina Love will face Lacey Von Erich, and she has told Von Erich that if she doesn't beat her at Destination X, she is out of the beautiful people. Well, the two of them don't do a very good job tonight. Angelina Love is not attentive to her partner at all and basically leaves her to get beaten down by Taylor Wilde and Sarita, to the point where the eventual winners, Wilde and Sarita, former Knockouts Tag Team Champions, kind of feel bad for Lacey Von Erich. A double underhook powerbomb from Sarita, however, picks up the victory for their team, and it's good to just get Taylor Wilde and Sarita back on screen. I actually did this rated on, I think, Sex Appeal, or I don't know what the note is called, Eye Candy, because it wasn't, but I've seen that it can get really good ratings, so I wanted to try it out for myself, and it has actually done well, which is a little bit disappointing because I don't want to rate the Knockouts matches on Eye Candy, but a 61 rating is not what we would have got from these four without doing it. It's not something I'm going to do all the time. I was just testing it out for this show, and it did a good job, and it gave the crowd a breather before the main event. So unfortunately, it does seem to be a really effective thing rather than having them rated on their actual wrestling ability. So maybe at times there will be reason to use it, but I'm definitely not going to make it a sort of go-to thing for Knockouts matches, because that is definitely not how we want to position the vast majority of the Knockouts. Angelina Love leaves up the ramp following her team's defeat. She's got no interest in looking after Lacey Von Erich, who has been hit with a lot of the offense in the match. The commentators remind us of their match this Sunday. Madison Rayne comes out from the back. She's followed by Velvet Sky, but Angelina stops them both. Love seems to think that this harsh behaviour is the only way that Lacey will learn. She's kind of presenting it as if it's tough love, but really it's coming across as just her being a massive bully, and she leaves the beautiful people to the back. That storyline will continue, as I said, at the pay-per-view. Before the main event, we get a video package for another match that is taking place at Destination X. The Hooligans versus Generation Me will have another Against All Odds rematch. The Hooligans were defeated by Generation Me at that pay-per-view, but each have scored a singles victory over Nick and Matt Jackson in the month in between. So it's 2 wins to the Hooligans, 1 to Generation Me, but when it came to tag team action, it was actually Generation Me who came out on top. The way to solve this, at Destination X, the 2 teams will open the show. I think I might have actually changed that, but for now we're saying that they'll open the show. Maybe we'll have a reshuffle, but it'll be a 2 out of 3 falls between Generation Me and the Hooligans. I booked this show last night and I'm recording it in the morning, so I've since sort of written down the pay-per-view card, so I'm not sure if that is still the opener. Things can change, of course. It's not a big deal if we end up having it as the 3rd or the 4th match. At the time of this episode, at least, that was penciled in to be the opening match, and I do think, like it was at Against All Odds, it'll be a really, really good way to open the show. We then go into the break. Alex Shelley and Chris Sabin shown trying to get into the office of Paul Heyman. They want to speak to him about their rematch with Beer Money at Destination X. The Motor City Machine Guns are told by a crew member that Heyman has to go out and address the crowd up next, so he isn't able to speak to them. Again, Alex Shelley and Chris Sabin not happy with what has happened since that Feast or Fired briefcase was invoked. They feel like they've been completely ignored by Paul Heyman, and as well, it seems like it's definitely the case, as Paul Heyman comes down to the ring to promote the Destination X card. He does his usual hard sell of the pay-per-view, running through every single match on the card and just telling us how great this whole show is going to be, while reminding viewers that we still have Desmond Wolfe versus Samoa Joe to come tonight right here on Spike TV in our Impact main event. As Heyman continues to talk about the pay-per-view, he is cut off by Motor City Machine Guns. Shelley and Sabin come down and they ask why they have heard nothing from Paul Heyman about their rematch, and they had to find out by watching the show like everybody else. They're furious that Heyman has completely blanked them for 2 weeks. Paul Heyman should have addressed them directly, but he just completely ignored him, and they are sick and tired of playing the nice guy and waiting for Paul Heyman to pay them attention. They want answers, and they want them right now. Heyman smirks and chuckles, and he says that he loves to see this fire from the Motor City Machine Guns. They're not buying it, but he adds that AJ Styles and Joe, they may be the main event of Destination X, but Heyman sees Sabin and Shelley as the two most must-see competitors in TNA since he came here at the start of 2010. He knew they were good before he got here, but seeing them up close and personal, they are two of the most talented wrestlers he has ever worked with, and potentially the best tag team he has ever seen. Paul Heyman is really trying to build them back up, having annoyed them, and he says that while what they do in the ring is amazing, the reason he's been blanking them is because he wants to see the Motor City Machine Guns angry. He wants to fire them up. He wants to see that smile wiped off their faces. He don't want to see them coming down to the ring and hugging fans and shaking hands. He wants to see them as mean, bad, tough competitors who are ready for a fight. And from the sounds of things tonight, it looks like it's worked. He even gave Beer Money the night off tonight because he knew that that would light the fire even more in the Motor City Machine Guns. He knows that Sabin and Shelley want their hands on Storm and Rude, and that's why he is making them wait for the pay-per-view. Just like all the fans and the viewers, the only way that you're going to see Alex Shelley and Chris Sabin fight Beer Money is by buying Destination X. So another segment just selling the pay-per-view. That is what Paul Heyman does, and I don't think there's anything wrong with him just outright saying it to the people. If you want to see two teams of this level face off, then the only way you're going to see it is by paying that money and going and buying Destination X. So it's not a great segment. As I've said before, Sabin and Shelley not great on promos, but I do think that just being in the ring with Paul Heyman should help them. I don't think we've got any notes about it or anything like that, but I think just in general it will help them. Chris Sabin improvising well, Shelley not doing so well, but in general a decent segment. Could have hoped for better, but not too bad. AJ Styles then joins commentary for the main event, ready to watch his Destination X opponent in action against Desmond Wolfe. And that main event match has fantastic heat and great wrestling, and it's a bit of a screwy finish. I said last month that I wanted to stop doing screwy finishes. The last 3 episodes of Impact have had clean finishes on the main event. Perhaps some people wouldn't see the Feast or Fired match as that, but that was more of an angle slash match kind of thing. So the actual main event of Motor City Machine Guns v Team 3D did have a clean finish. So I thought I could let myself have one sort of screwy finish, especially between two guys who we don't want to beat clean on Impact. During the match, there's a referee bump. Desmond Wolfe goes out to get a chair. AJ Styles just watches. He isn't going to help Samoa Joe. He might not agree with what Desmond Wolfe is doing, but as far as he's concerned, Joe can fight his own battles. However, there is somebody who comes out to stop him, Jeff Hardy, who grabs the chair, and this is sort of a tug of war. Jeff Hardy lets go of the chair, Wolfe falls back, and it was supposed to be that he goes into a Kikina clutch, but I changed my mind on that. I was going to just have Desmond Wolfe do like a quick tap out and get out of the ring. He doesn't care about losing because his focus is on Sunday, but I changed my mind and just had it so that Joe hits a muscle buster to Desmond Wolfe. 2 good performances, a really good main event, announcing letting us down, but these two having pretty good chemistry. I did have it penciled in as well, I think for Slammiversary maybe, for Desmond Wolfe and Samoa Joe to have a one-on-one match. I really wanted to obviously build a big storyline to that. Them getting a 77 with no build and getting that good chemistry note is a really, really good thing to see. The final segment, the lack of anything interesting happening. I didn't think that I did it 5 minutes. I meant for this to be 4 minutes because obviously I wouldn't have got that note then. Pretty annoyed with that because it does hurt the storylines. Yeah, that's an annoying oversight, but it's not the end of the world. Having stopped Desmond Wolfe from using the chair on Samoa Joe, Jeff Hardy stands at the top of the ramp. He's enjoying the fact that he's sort of got a little bit more comeuppance on Wolfe, but AJ Styles gets up from his seat next to Maro and Taz and has a brief stare down with Jeff Hardy, a potential future World Heavyweight Championship match, 2 of the top names in the company for sure. The commentators suggest that while he may be focused on Desmond Wolfe for Sunday, Jeff Hardy surely has his eyes on the winner of that main event. Joe v Jeff Hardy also could be a great match. Any of these 4 could put on a great match with each other, really. It's a testament to how many great people we've got on this roster. AJ Styles joins the victorious Samoa Joe in the ring, going face to face with his Destination X opponent. No big explosive finish or anything, just a case of putting champion and challenger nose to nose, promoting as much as we can the fact that 2 TNA Originals, 2 of the guys with the best records in the company over the last year. Like, I've not done a big elaborate storyline with it. which you could see as a criticism, but I just think these two are such great wrestlers that it's going to be a great match and it's going to be a strong main event. We've got personal rivalries on the show. We've got Anderson and Kurt Angle. We've got Jeff Hardy and Desmond Wolfe, who have that real fire and hatred for one another. So the fact that we can have a main event that is purely on who is the better wrestler is obviously acceptable, particularly if it's the World Heavyweight Championship. That is what the World Championship is all about, and these two are certainly two of the best guys on the roster. Desmond Wolfe on the outside looks on with a bitter look on his face. He was building up by beating Mick Foley, and he could potentially have been the next in line for another world title shot if he beats Samoa Joe here, but we're keeping him in that conversation as we're keeping Jeff Hardy in that conversation. But champion and challenger go nose to nose 3 days before their pay-per-view showdown at Destination X. Disappointed with that last segment, really, but it is a strong episode of Impact. Really wished I'd not done that 5 minutes and just done it 4. Increasing our popularity in 31 regions anyway. Shouldn't really dwell on it, but yeah, disappointing way to end the Go Home show, really, because it is, of course, so important in taking them storylines up to the next level, and we've actually done the opposite, losing heat to them. I think the last 2 pay-per-view main events have got the note about lack of heat from associated storyline, so it is... Oh, what's this? AAA are fighting a desperate PR battle to save their name after a magazine. Yeah, that's kind of on topic considering what's going on in real life, but a bit of a strange thing to see. I don't think we've got... I know TNA did have a relationship with AAA at some point. Yeah, we don't have at the minute, so that's probably for the best, but I don't know how that'll affect the game world. Perhaps... Yeah, I'm not sure really, but... Yeah, Destination X coming up. I'll put the card on screen, and yeah, that's the end of that episode. Weird.